Welcome back to LightTech. I'm Jim Jansen, and we are continuing our CMS 3.1 invitation email template branding. This is part 3, server-side scripts. So come along with me as we configure LightTech. So as we continue our video series for the invitation templates, part 3, server-side scripts, I want to stop here and let you know that this is not going to be a tutorial on how to program in Python or CGI or any kind of server-side script. Rather, it's going to be a demonstration on how to configure a basic web server. I'm using Python in this series, and I'll show you how to use a Python script, and I have a GitHub available for this Python series. So let's go on and let's look at some of the requirements for this particular demonstration. First, you have to have a knowledge of Windows/Linux servers where the Python web server is going to be running. You also have to have some knowledge of Python or other scripting languages. You also have to have knowledge of Web Server Gateway Interfaces, or WSGI. Knowledge with CMS and CMM 3.1 branding templates is required. Now for our Python requirements. We will first need Python 3.9.1 for Windows 64-bit. There's a link for that. We will need the Bottle 0.12 stable version. Here's the link for that version. And thirdly, we're going to need Paste Server 3.5.0 stable version. I will add these links to the YouTube channel for this video. Now we understand what's going to be covered in the video series and the prerequisites for the Python, we want to discuss Web Server Gateway Interface, or WSGI. The Web Server Gateway Interface, WSGI, is a standard interface between web server software and web applications API like CMS or web app that is written in Python. Having a standard interface makes it easy to use an application that supports WSGI with several different web servers. Bottle is a reference implementation of the WSGI specification that can be used to add WSGI support to a web server or framework. It provides utilities for manipulating WSGI environment variables and response headers, base classes for implementing WSGI servers, and a demo HTTP server that serves WSGI applications, and a validation tool that checks WSGI server and applications for conformance to WSGI specifications PEP 3333. In our demonstration, we're going to use a Web Server Gateway Interface, or WSGI, called Bottle. Bottle is a fast and simple micro framework for small web applications. It offers request dispatching, routes with URL parameter support, templates, key/value databases, a built-in HTTP server, and adapters for many third-party WSGI/HTTP server and template engines, all in a single file and with no dependencies other than Python standard libraries. Bottle ships with a lot of ready-to-use adapters for most common WSGI servers and automates the setup process. And here's an incomplete list of those adapters. The default adapter that I was talking about as the HTTP server in Bottle is the WSGI REF reference. It's a single thread default server and it's not very powerful. In our demonstration, we're going to use Paste, which is a multi-threaded, stable, and tried and tested web server with the Bottle interface. You are welcome to use any of the other interfaces. I wouldn't recommend CGI, as a run CGI script would increase the CPU utilization for your server. There are some other ones here listed, but the most common one that people use is going to be the cherry pie or the paste. So here are some more of my links for the GitHub, Python libraries on how to create a virtual environment, bottle framework documentation, advanced paste server documentation, which I'll add all these links and the previous links in the video series to my YouTube channel for this video. Before we dive into the demonstration of the server-side script, I want you to go to the GitHub website and look for my project Cisco Meeting Server Invitation Templates web server. On that project, you'll find a archive file called invites.zip. Download that file. In that folder, when you extract it, you'll find the invites Python script, requirement script, web config, and 2 folders that contain sample branding. The static folder will contain the invites template and web app branding, and the call branding will contain the call customization files. Also go to the readme.md, and that's going to show us how to deploy this project. In the beginning, the main focal point of this project was Cisco Meeting Server Invitation/email templates, and I had the web app code and the call customization code running on an IIS server, and it didn't make sense to split up the branding between 2 different servers. So I wrote the code for web app and call customization, added it to the invites zip file and that Python script. Prerequisites for this project are as follows. 1. A pre-configured Python environment running on Microsoft Server 2016. You can use any Microsoft server you have available, and if you know Linux, then you can run it on a Linux server like Apache or something like that. The second requirement is knowledge of Python scripting. The third requirement is that the following modules be installed into your Python project, and that's bottle.py, os.py, and paste.py. If you downloaded the invites archive, the requirements.txt file has those 3 modules listed, and when you install the virtual environment with that requirements text, the virtual environment will prompt you to install those modules. Also, you'll need Meeting Server 3.1 to configure your URL for resource archives. We have arrived at the Bottle Python Web Micro Framework demo. We're going to start with the code and go through the module and explain how the Python script works. Then we'll proceed to CMS and show how to configure the API in CMS. And lastly, we'll do some troubleshooting with the bottle, paste, and CMS servers. So let's dive in. So I've opened up my RDP session to Windows 2016 server, and I see the IDE program called PyCharm is running on my server with my script. This project is located at C:\users, administrator, PyCharm projects, invite. If I go to my file explorer and navigate to the same path, I see that all the files are located in that path, which I downloaded from GitHub. I also see that there's a requirements.txt file. In the requirements.txt file, we see bottle.py, paste.py, and OS. When my virtual environment gets launched with this IDE program, it's going to ask me to install each of these modules, as it sees that these modules are required for this project. After I install the modules, then I can import different libraries from each module. From the bottle module, I'm going to import route, run, static file, error, request, and get, as those are different commands I'm going to be using in the script. I'm also importing OS, which is going to help me navigate through the different file folders. And lastly, I'm going to import paste, which is our multi-threaded web server. So let's go through the script. I've made comments every step of the way so you understand what each portion of the script is doing. On the first line, I want to declare my current working directory. My underscore directory equals os.getcwd, or current working directory. This command is going to put the current working directory into my variable my underscore directory. And what's the current working directory? Well, it's this C:users administrator PyCharm projects invite. So I don't have to type that out every time I want to tell Python where to get my current working directory. It already knows and has put it into my underscore directory. So in the next portion of our script, we notice the comment route this API GET request to return invitation template and query of the language. Note, change the route in the parentheses to match your GET request. So the first portion of this section of script is the route decorator. The route decorator has in parentheses /brand/invitation template, which is my URL that I'm going to bind to my function. The function is invite_static. The function can be named anything you like, but it's more meaningful to you when you name it something that's relevant to the invite templates. So I called it invite because it is my invite templates, and then _static as the static folder contains the invitation templates. The first thing we see in our function invite_static is a variable called language, and language is equal to request.query.get and in parentheses language. When the HTTP GET comes to the Python script, we're going to look for the header in the HTTP GET request for language. The format we'll see is language equals and then our language request. In our case, it could be _en_us or _zh_cn. As we see, those are the two invitation templates that are legitimate for our GET request. So we'll take that portion of the header and we will stick it into the language variable. The next line in our function has a variable called file path. File path will equal a pattern or file format that I'm looking for in the static folder. In the brackets, I have a literal text invitation_template_. Then I have a plus sign, which means to tack on or add on to that the result of the language variable. Plus I'm going to tack on a .text. If we recall, the language variable contains the result of this request query get language equals from the HTTP header get request. The result of that file path should be invitation_template_en_us.text or whatever the language variable result is. The next line in my function contains a variable called myRoot. MyRoot is going to equal to os.path.join. This command is going to do something special for us. It's going to tell us the path and file folder where my invitation templates are located. I first see that I'm going to join my directory and static. My directory is equal to the current working directory or this path right here. And then the static represents static folder, which contains the invitation template files. The last line in my function is a return statement. The return statement is followed by a static file command from bottle, and the static file from bottle opens a file in a safe way and returns the file in an HTTP response with status codes 200, 305, 403, or 404. What am I going to return? Well, I'm going to return what's inside the parentheses, a file path and myRoot. If we recall, file path is going to be invitation_template_ plus my language variable plus my .text. And myRoot is going to be the path where that static folder, which contains the invitation template files, are located. We will take the invitation template file and return it in the HTTP response back to web app. So to summarize, I have a decorator called route, and it has my URL /brand/invitation_template, which I'm binding to this function called inviteStatic. The function inviteStatic declares a language variable, which I get with a request.query.get for the HTTP header language equals. Whatever language equals to is going to get put into my language variable. Next, I declare my file path, how my file is going to look like. So invitation underscore template underscore plus the results of the language variable plus the dot text will give me the file name. And then my root is going to give me the path and file folder where the invitation template files are located. And lastly, I return an HTTP response with that file by looking into the file path for the file name, and my root is the directory. In the next two sections of my code, I have a route decorator and a get decorator to change it up a little bit. The route decorator again is going to define my URL for the web app function, and the get decorator is going to define the URL binding for the call branding function. We're not going to go over these functions as this is not the focus of this video. In this section of the code, I'm setting up my error response for when I don't find an invitation template file. This responds with an error 404 not found if request fails. Note this is only seen in bottle logging. CMS will provide the default invitation template in call bridge if no file is returned by the bottle web framework. I made a decorator error with the 404 status code. I defined a function that error 404 is going to provide me an error, and I'm going to return the text, nothing here, sorry, which we can use for troubleshooting, and we will see this also in the debug of the bottle framework. In this portion of the script, we see our comment, run in parentheses server equals paste, is added for multi-threaded server support. We recall from the early portion of our video that Bottle has a built-in HTTP web server that has single-threaded support, which means you can only connect one user at a time to get these files. So we want to configure paste so multiple connections can be made to the Bottle interface with our paste server. We also see we have the run comment of host equals quad 0 on port 8081 and debug is set to true. So here's the actual command, run parentheses server equals paste, comma, host equals quad 0. We're listening to everything on port 8081 and our debug is set to true. So we can see transactions in the lower section of our server. Once we have invites Python script configured so that we can respond to the CMS and web app GET requests, we need to start the server. How do we do that? We go to run, and the first thing we would try to do is run invites. That will work, but debug invites is better. That will start our server up, and we get a window where we can see our transactions coming from CMS and web app and the responses that the paste server sends to the Bottle interface. We see that Bottle 0.12 has server starting up using paste server instead of our default single-threaded server. We're listening on HTTP quad 0 port 8081. We also see our URL link that we can click for testing purposes, and that will open up a browser that gives us a message, nothing here, sorry, as we did not provide a valid URL GET request to the paste server or the Bottle interface. Now let's move on to Cisco CMS server configurations. We're going to first log in, and I'm going to go to my call branding profile that I've pre-configured. In that profile, I see invitation templates. You can see I configured http://14.49.18.252, which is my Windows server where I'm hosting the Python environment. And I'm saying listen to port 8081 with a /brand/invitation_template, which is the URL I'm sending to that Python Bottle interface so that the paste server can look at the route decorator and bind that to my function. Now that I have my URL configured for invitation templates in CMS server, let's go log into my CodeSpace with my web app and test those templates. I'm logging in with Vader. I see my Vader space, and I have some join information, and I see my icon for email or copy invite, where my invitation templates can be chosen. My default language right now is Chinese simplified, and I see I'm pulling from the bottle interface and the paste server a invitation template for China. I can also choose English United States and get a customized template also. If I try to go for another language like Spanish Spain, I receive the default template from CMS. When we look at the invites Python script and the console area, we can see activity coming to the bottle interface for the paste server. The first get we receive is /brand/web-app/rebels.zip. We get a 200 OK to that, which is telling us that the web app branding was delivered to CMS and to the web app user. The second get I receive is brand/invitation_template, and the query language equals ZH_CN for the simplified Chinese, and we do have a file there. That's why we were able to see that invitation template delivered to web app. The next one I see is /brand/invitation_template with a query language equals EN_US. We got a 200 OK to that because that file is being served under the static folder and was returned to my web app. And if you recall, I chose Spanish Spain. When I send that to the bottle interface for paste to serve that up for me, I get a brand/invitation_template, and the query was equal to ES_ES. The bottle interface returned from the paste server a 404 not found. If I want to test this ES_ES language query, I can copy this brand/invitation_template query from my debug console and go to my browser and put into my browser http://14.49.18.252:8081 as my listening port for the bottle interface, and then paste that URL in there. Brand/invitation_template. The query for language equals ES_ES. And we can see what gets returned. As we see, we can get nothing here, sorry, which is part of my script for the error. Nothing here, sorry. So we just proved that not only we don't see the file in the static folder, but if we copy that URL, it's going to return the error. Another method we can use to troubleshoot and verify our GET requests coming from CMS to the bottle interface is to run Wireshark on my Windows 2016 server. You can see I have a capture filter of TCP.port equals 8081, the listening port of my bottle interface, and a protocol of HTTP. So the first GET request is coming from 14.49.18.248, our CMS server, destined for 14.49.18.252, the Windows server, with a destination port of 8081, my bottle interface. The GET method is /brand/invitation_template in a query language of ZH_CN. If we look more closely to this packet, we see the header request URI path. In that header is /brand/invitation_template. If you recall from our script, the route decorator also has that in the parentheses /brand/invitation_template. This is the header where that information will be derived for our URI. The second header we're looking for is request URI query, and that has language equals ZH_CN. The request URI query parameter is language equals ZH_CN. If you recall from our function, we have a language variable that's equal to request.query.get, and our parameter was language. So the script is looking for this header, it's looking for the parameter, it's looking for what language is equal to. In our case, ZH_CN. And with that information, we format invitation_template_ZH_CN.txt. That finds our file for us. And in the Wireshark capture, we receive a 200 OK back from Paste WSGI server. Here we see another GET request with the language query en_us. That was found by our pay server, so we get a 200 OK. Then we get the request for the language query es_es. When the pay server looks for that file, it's returning to us a 404 not found. I hope this has been informative for you, and please subscribe to Like Tac.